I don't think you're going to believe, man. You are not going to believe just how dumb the machine thinks that you are. And honestly, I don't think that most people can wrap their brains around how stupid the machine really needs you to be to pull off this Kamala Harris grift, which is exactly what this is, man. I'm going to show you some truly, truly insane takes. I mean, just pure propaganda that they're coming out with to try and push Kamala Harris down the throats of America, right? But first, do not lose sight of the facts and remember these facts forever. You know, the party that preached to you about democracy and about their very unique role in saving it for 4 years, man. The party that hid from you the mental decline, the serious mental decline of the president for at least that long, probably longer. They pressured or threatened or basically forced Joe Biden out of the race after he had become the presumptive nominee. You know, they basically made him break up with the nation over text message, if you can believe that. In the span of about 24 hours, literally installed a puppet that has never ever earned even one primary vote in the now 2 times she's run for president, right? And now they're starting to tell you that if you do not stand with Kamala Harris, then you're a misogynist or you're a racist or a fascist or whatever isterism they think is going to work on you. But this is who these people are.
Hey, fam. Okay, I just got to say it. Given the just stratospheric entrance of Vice President Kamala Harris into the presidential campaign, and she has now secured enough delegates to become the nominee, you're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color, but really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture. You're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side. The door needs to close behind Amber. And she looked crazy over there. But shut the door behind her. You really are going to look crazy being on that side, given the cultural phenomenon of Vice President Kamala Devi Harris. She's about to make history. She's about to become the first woman president. She brings together the African American community, the AAPI community, younger people. She is a whole meme. And I'm going to explain to y'all the fall of the coconut tree is a whole West Indian thing. She brings together all of the aspects of the culture. HBCUs, she's a Howard graduate. The Divine Nine, she's an AKA. She is a woman of color extraordinaire. She would be the first, person from HBCU, regular real world, to be president of the United States, in addition to being the first woman president, in addition to being the first black woman president, in addition to being the first AAPI president. She's bringing it all. And very importantly, she will be the first woman president after the fall of Roe v. Wade. A woman who brings women back to power after having our power stripped from us by 6 far right-wingers on the Supreme Court, including one woman who turned on us. Baby, this is a cultural moment.
I'm going to be honest with you. I do not have a clue what most of that nonsense meant. I tried to Google some of it, but I have no idea. But apparently, Kamala Harris is bringing all that, right? And she's about to make history. And according to Joy Reid, she's going to become president. And all this is before people have actually even really heard her talk. And speaking of history, I mean, come on. Wouldn't it be something sort of interesting, definitely historic, if just by happenstance and Democrat meddling, that Donald Trump defeats the only 2 women to ever go into the general election as their party's nominee, right? That's kind of something when you think about it, right? But damn, I mean, have you ever heard so much identity politics? Whatever Joy Reid was talking about there. Kamala hasn't even given a rally barely, and already this is what they have, right? And I don't really get the math, right? She says that Kamala Harris brings back the black vote or whatever, because of course in 2024, Democrats still believe everything is a monolith, right? But my question is this: if Biden Harris wasn't earning the black vote together, why does anyone assume that Harris with no Biden looks any different to anybody, right? But this is what some people pretend to believe. I mean, aside from what BLM is actually doing with this matter, I mean, they're pretty upset, which is awesome. But for some reason, these people are convinced that the color and the physical parts that a president has are somehow the important things.
I'm not sure people understand the pain or the suffering that goes along with being a black man in this country. I'm not sure people understand what it means to stand strong in this country. I'm not sure people understand what it means to have your back against the wall. And so now it's my turn. And I really don't care what you all say about there's another black man crying or this or that or the third. Because every day I'm gonna work damn hard to make sure that tomorrow's better than yesterday. And so donate, stand up, activate. Because if we do not change the country we're living in, our daughters, our sons are gonna have hell to pay.
Why are all these people crying, man, over Joe Biden and crying for Kamala Harris? And why do they always say the same thing, right? I mean, he says, you just don't know how hard it is to be a black man in America. Well, dude, don't cry about it. Explain it. I mean, everyone says the same thing, but no one ever explains it. What is so hard about that in the year 2024? And if it is hard, how will electing a person like Kamala Harris change any of that, right? And speaking of change, I mean, if this guy really thinks that we need to change the country that we're living in, how does electing the vice president, the guy that put us here in the first place, accomplish any of that? What are these people looking for, man? Are they just looking for the short-term high, you know, the fleeting feeling that they get by voting for someone like Kamala? It's got to be it. But I mean, how could they not be concerned with the years and years of bad policy and freakish, terrifying laughter that is going to come after that? I mean, it's insane. I don't get it. I honestly do not get it. And I'm not sure that a lot of the people that are so excited and crying right now, I don't think they really get what's being pulled over on them right now either. And honestly, I think that most people are going to be pretty surprised that someone half Joe's age is actually somehow a worse communicator. And I think they're going to be surprised at what a lying, virtue signaling fraud she really is. But luckily for us, and unluckily for her, there's about 10,000 hours of tape.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like
And I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Harris explains her pro-pot stance and admits that she indulged in the substance while in college. Then this exchange happened.
What does Kamala Harris listen to?
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was it?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac.
Dude, I'm probably going to be able to show at least one new ridiculous and embarrassing Kamala video in every single video that I do. And obviously, they are funny, but honestly, nothing is funny when you consider the stakes. I mean, this is a dangerously unintelligent, complete fraud of a human, man. I mean, there she is talking about smoking weed in college to music that didn't even exist. So obviously, it's a lie, right? If it was Trump, it'd be the lie of the century. But the problem isn't even her lies. The problem is the thousands and thousands of Black Californians that she put in prison for marijuana-related charges. But that's just the kind of person she is. She will imprison people, and then she'll laugh about doing the same drugs that they did, while at the same time pounding her chest about what a great prosecutor she was, right? And really, this should tell you everything you need to know about the Democrat Party. I mean, they all see it. All of these people, they all know it, but none of them will call it out. If you want to actually hear a Democrat brave enough to call her out, you have to listen to a literal Kennedy that they banished from the Democrat Party just to make this whole Kamala Harris experiment possible.
I want to add that a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively. The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public.
Just think about where we're at, man. Think about where we're at right now as a country, man. And think about where the average Democrat voter really is at. And I don't mean that as an insult. Honestly, I don't. I do not mean that as an insult. A lot of these people, they're Democrats because they've been Democrats since birth. Their parents were Democrats and their parents before them were Democrats, Kennedy Democrats, ironically. But a lot of these people, they don't know any better. They really do believe somehow, some way that their party is still some party of good, if it ever was. But they believe it's a party of good. They believe it's the party of the poor and all the other insanity that they've fallen for, right? But just think about this. This is the guy that they have convinced the average Democrat that he's the crazy person. The guy that's against war, pro-national security, but pro-coexistence, not pro-war. He's the crazy one. The guy who ran against Joe Biden because his brain did not work is the crazy guy. And the woman who was part of the cover-up is the brave, glass-shattering hero. I mean, how freaking crazy is that, man? I mean, this is the kind of man that they should be hearing, they should be listening to, but he's silenced in favor of literal puppets like Kamala, and they all know it. Mouthpieces like Jake Tapper, who I'm going to show you right now, is going to tell you right now that he's talking about his voters, not his viewers.
Biggest brat. Yeah.
So, I, for the record, I was tipped off about this, what I'm about to share with our viewers, by my 16-year-old
who truly
daughter,
is an
actual member of Gen Z. Kamala Harris appears to be leaning into this. The singer Charlie XCX tweeted last night, "Kamala is brat." And this is in reference to her album. It's called Brat. Kamala has branded her Kamala HQ Twitter page with the same aesthetic of the album. That's another Gen Z word, aesthetic. It's even becoming a trend on TikTok. Special Gen Z correspondent Jamie Gale, what can you tell us about?
So first of all, just for my producer Elizabeth Stewart, who will spit out her coffee as I say this, I am supposed to say that's brat. And for those who are not in the know the way I am, that is a cool thing. It has a color. Chartreuse is the color, and Kamala Harris has adopted that for whatever social media page that is. But I have brought some notes because I knew you would want a definition. Okay, here we go. Charlie XCX, who I do know, quote, brat, "You're just that girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things sometimes," end quote.
So it's the idea that we're all kind of brat and Vice President Harris is brat?
I don't know if
Two
you're
of-
Brad. I think you
right,
aspire
two
to
of us-
be Brad.
right,
Okay? You don't
right.
just become Brad.
Oh, okay.
You have to try.
You can work at it.
I will aspire to be Brad.
Honestly, this is how stupid they think people are. This is who they think they're catering to, man. And if you're the Democrats, I mean, this is what they think is going to help them win. I mean, the same people that jaw all freaking day about con man Donald Trump pandering to his base when he says things that are definitely not politically expedient, but they're 1,000% true. They're the same people bringing up this kind of insanity. You know, Kamala Harris is brat, whatever that means. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff. When you take the 30,000-foot view of any of this stuff, it's just fully and completely insane. And honestly, man, if this works, I don't think it will, but if this works, we are freaking doomed, man, like completely and likely forever doomed. But that's just my take, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.